welcome to Series 4, Episode 1 of In Suspense, a podcast and vodcast for fans and writers of crime fiction. I'm Lauren North, and my co-host is, of course, the lovely Leslie Cara, just having her sip of tea.
Hello.
I cannot believe we're on to Series 4, Leslie, and it's been a whole year now that we've been doing this, which has just flown by. I've really missed seeing you and doing it over the summer as well. It feels like it's been such a long break, so I'm really happy to be back.
I've missed you too.
Oh, thank you. And we have had so many amazing guests over the last year, and we are not disappointing you today because we have got global best-selling author, the amazing Shari Lapena, coming on the show in a little bit. But for now, we've got a little bit of catching up to do, I think, haven't we, Leslie?
We certainly have. Yeah, it does seem ages since we last saw each other in person. I think it was probably at Harrogate, wasn't it?
Yeah, God, that was like a long time ago.
And yet that wasn't really a long time ago. It was at the end of July, and it's only just the beginning of September. But in many ways, it seems ages and ages ago.
I think we've both been really busy, haven't we? Which I think always makes it feel.
We have, yeah. I was looking through my diary before we started doing this today, just to remind myself what I've actually been doing in August, and I have actually achieved quite a lot. I mean, basically helping my parents move seems to have eclipsed everything else, but I'm not going to talk about that today because I need to have a break from that. Yeah. Draw a line under that for the moment. But yeah, that's kind of taken over August. But I have been doing quite a bit of socialising and seeing people, I suppose, as we all have, after a long period of not seeing them. But on the work front, I mean, the Dare came out in the States on August the 3rd, which was lovely. So there's always excitement around that for a few days. And then you sort of think, okay, what can I do now? I finished the proofs for This Girl, That Girl. So they've gone off, wrote the acknowledgements. My acknowledgements get slightly shorter each time. I find them really difficult to write. I don't know about you. And what else did I do? Oh gosh, let me look. What else did I do? Oh yes, I went to a literary festival in Laxfield in Suffolk. I was on a panel with a romantic novelist and historical fiction novelist called Jenny Keir, and we were interviewed by the lovely Phoebe Morgan, whose book I have here. Yes. Next to yours, actually, Laurie, more of which later. Because I think it's your e-publication day today, isn't it?
It is exciting, isn't it?
We can have a chat about that in a minute. Yes, so that's really what I've been doing, and I've started book 5 as well.
That's exciting.
I'd been kind of planning that in August, or thinking. Planning sounds very grand. I haven't actually got a fully thought out plan, but I've got done as far as I can, and I'm adopting a more free-flowing approach this time. And
exciting.
Yeah.
Last time I spoke to you on In Suspense, I think you were just looking at ideas, weren't you? I think you were just pulling a few things together. You had sort of a setting you liked, but that was sort of all you had. So it's come on from that, has it, over the summer?
It has. I mean, I'm not going to say too much about it because I know you're probably the same. When something's in that sort of early stages, you can't really say too much about it. But I have got the setting, and I have got the bones of a story, and I started properly on the 1st of September. And it's really weird because everything I've previously said that I don't do, I've always said I'm not motivated by word count. I never set myself word counts. But actually, this year it seems to be working better. I've decided I will write, it sounds very small amount, but 500 words a day.
Oh, that's really good.
As a minimum. And I've been doing that, and actually it's working very well for me at the moment. So mind you, it's only the beginning of September.
Yeah. No, I'm pro word count. I think, if you set yourself something realistic, I think that does just help. Gives your day a bit of structure as well, and makes you feel like you deserve a break, I think, as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. God, I'm just very aware that I'm so hot and sweaty. It's really hot today as we're recording this. Is it typical, isn't it? The children go back to school and everything. We're meant to be moving into autumn, and suddenly we're getting the summer that we were hoping.
I know, it's gorgeous out there. Yes, no, we're in here.
I know.
It sounds like you've had a busy summer anyway.
Yeah, I have had a busy summer, and and I think you've been very busy as well, haven't you, Laura? You actually managed to get away, didn't you, for a week or two with your family?
No.
You didn't?
No, I haven't. No, my children went away for
Oh, sorry, I got that wrong. I thought you all
no,
went.
they went away to PGL, which I don't know what it actually stands for, but it's always called Parents Get Lost. So they went away with a group of friends, and so we had like 4 days without them, which was amazing. But we just stayed home because of all the pets. You know what it's like. No, I've just been doing my structural edits, which I started, I think, mid-July, and it's just taken until close to the end of August to do them. And there was a lot to do and a lot of threads that had to be weaved in and out, and I really wanted to make sure I nailed it as best I could, so that I wouldn't then get it back again and back again and back again, which I did with Safe at Home. So yeah, I've been doing that, and then it's been some holiday activities, and my boy started a new school, so we had to go to every shop in existence to get and spend a gazillion pounds on new things. So yeah, and then I've done my structured edits, and now I'm starting a new book as well. So I've just started my second romance, and I only started that last week as well. So we've got both started a new book, which is good. And then, as you say, it is publication day today for my ebook Safe at Home, which is just up there. So yes,
yeah. And it's out, the paperback will be out on is it the 30th of September?
30th of September, yeah. So it'll be available from then. So
And I think we're going to do, we've just discussed before we started recording, we're going to do an Instagram live, aren't we? So I'll
yes,
look forward
hold my hand, because I'm not very good on it.
I'm going to give you the 3rd degree questioning. I won't really. I'll be very gentle.
Yes.
Right, so that brings us on to our topic for today, which is the writer's year, particularly for those of us who are contracted to write a book a year. I mean, I know some people write more than one book a year. I don't know how they do it, but they do, don't they? Quite a lot of them, and that's amazing in my view. But you know, one thing's very clear is that when you are on that sort of book a year schedule, you do have to be incredibly organised, don't you, and disciplined. That's not to say that we always are. I certainly have my moments in every year when I just think it's going to kill me. You know, I'm not going to be able to do it. I don't know if that's the same for you, Laurie, or whether I just lose it regularly.
Definitely structured edits felt like that.
Yeah, it's a tricky time, isn't it? But I feel, I don't know whether, I mean, maybe it's because it's not the start of a new year, but I always feel that September is the start of my writing year, because it's usually when I start writing properly. I always feel determined. I feel even more determined this year that I will not let things get on top of me like I did last year, that I will be kinder to myself and give myself more space. And I think that's why I've sort of decided I will try and stick to a word count, because then I feel that if I can get that done early in the morning or first thing in the morning, I've got the rest of the day to do other things and not let it just, because before it took over my entire day, and I don't think that was very good for me, really.
No, and that's what Stephen King does actually. He will write, like, he'll bash something out first thing in the morning, and then maybe in the afternoon might tinker with it a bit, but he's the same. And in his autobiography he talks about like just getting it out of the way so that it's then not hanging over you for the rest of the day, which I think is really sensible. But yeah, I completely agree with you that you do have to be so organized. I mean, I do write 2 to 3 books a year, but only.
Oh God, I'd forgotten that, because you're doing the romantic ones as well, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah. So I wrote book 4 this year, and I've written book 4 and 5 I've written already this year, and I'm now writing my romance. But and I'm always like, it's fine, I can do it. And then when my dad passed away, I just realized that actually the minute life throws you a curveball, you're just suddenly going to be massively behind. And I think I found that quite stressful, because I was behind on where I wanted to be with my structural edits. And yeah, I've then had a lot of pressure on myself, and then I was going to be behind on my romance, and suddenly it's not fun anymore when it's that much pressure and you're suddenly really behind. So I think I'm the same as you. I'm determined to be a lot kinder to myself and to give myself plenty of breaks. I've joined the gym again, so I'm like going off and doing that and having more time away from my desk. So that's my plan. But planning is key. And I think it's not just planning from the perspective of we should plan when we're doing something, I think what authors don't do enough of on a lot of occasions is ask their publishers what their schedule is and when we're going to get stuff back from them. And I think that's so important. If I'm giving my structural edits in, I want to know when I'm then going to see it again, so I can plan that into my next few months kind of thing. And I think we're all just always so pleased to see the back of our books when we've been working on them.
Yeah, my edits tend to come back terrifyingly quickly, usually a couple of weeks later, just when I'm thinking, oh, this is nice, I've got some time to myself.
Yeah, I think they give us deadlines as well, and I think it's okay for us to not give them deadlines, but to ask when they're planning to return work as well. So I think that's important.
Yeah, I think I have. Yeah, I mean, I have quite a good relationship with my editor, so she does usually tell me when she's going to send me the edits. She'll say, I'll probably get back to you in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or whatever. So I have a rough idea. But yeah, I think that is important, because you do need to plan, don't you? And you need some time off, but you also, I think you need to get cracking even when you haven't got a book to write. You need to get organised with other things, don't you? And sort of clear the decks and sort out admin things. And because I find that when I'm sitting down to write, I hate the thought of having loads of sort of admin tasks to do, or emails I know I've got to respond to, or tax forms I've got to fill in, or something. You to have all that as well, you need to really, I personally need to get all that out of the way before I can relax and work. But
no, I agree. It's hard to put that to one side, but it's sometimes you have to, don't you? But yeah, it's
because it's kind of continual, isn't it? The admin, I suppose that's the thing. It just never goes away, does it?
Well, anyway, one of our guests today certainly has proved that she can write one book a year, and they always go into the charts, both here and across the pond. And as I said, that is the phenomenally successful Shari Lapena. So welcome to the show.
Okay, right. Hello, Shari Lapena, and welcome to In Suspense. We are so delighted to have you on the show. We've been wanting to have you on for ages and ages, and so it's a great honour to be speaking to you at last.
Oh, yes.
And we are going to read out your bio properly first before we start quizzing you. No, we won't quiz you. We'll be very gentle with you, I promise.
Okay.
Because you're coming to us today all the way from lovely sunny Toronto, is it? It's very sunny
It's
here.
nice. It's beautiful. We've actually had a really lovely summer, I'm sorry to say.
Oh, I'm very jealous. Yeah, we're very jealous.
But it's a bit of fall in the air today. All the kiddies are going back to school. Yeah.
Right, okay, here we go. So Shari Lapena worked as a lawyer and as an English teacher before writing fiction. Her debut thriller, The Couple Next Door, was a global bestseller, the best-selling fiction title in the UK in 2017, and has been optioned for TV. Her subsequent thrillers, A Stranger in the House, An Unwanted Guest, Someone We Know, and The End of Her were all Sunday Times and New York Times bestsellers, as is her most recent novel, Not a Happy Family, which my little wooden mannequin is displaying for us over here. And so Shari's books are published in 37 territories worldwide. So, Shari, I wonder if you could tell our listeners a little bit about Not a Happy Family. I mean, Laurie and I have both read it and absolutely loved it, but we figure you're going to be better at pitching this novel to our listeners than we are.
Well, Not a Happy Family starts off with the violent murder of an older couple in their 60s, Fred Merton and his wife Sheila. And Fred is a self-made millionaire many times over. He started his own company in robotics, and he made a fortune. And they live in this gorgeous house in this lovely, pristine area in upstate New York. And they have 3 adult children, Catherine, Dan, and Jenna. And so Easter dinner, everyone comes over for a lovely Easter dinner. And there's some tension in the family, let's say. And they have a very difficult and tension-filled Easter dinner. And everybody leaves, all the kids leave without dessert. There's been lots of nasty things said. They all leave. And then later that night, someone comes to the house and murders Fred and Sheila. So the book is really about who might have murdered this couple. All three adult kids get a share in the inheritance, which is about $24 million. So there's a built-in motive right there. And so the detectives come on the scene, they see this wealthy couple murdered, and attention focuses right away on the three adult children because they're going to inherit so much money. But there's also lots of interesting little wrinkles in there. There's the housekeeper, Irena, who has been with them for 30 years, and she might have motives of her own, and there may be a love child in there. And so as the book goes on, all of the kids have secrets. All of them have secrets, the housekeeper and the kids and everybody. And everyone's trying to keep those secrets secret. And as the police delve deeper, things become very fraught and the kids start to turn on each other. And yeah, it's quite tense. And you never know who did it until the very end. So yeah, it's a real whodunit. And the interesting thing about it is that the father, Fred, was probably a psychopath. And one of the questions in the book is really, is that psychopathic trait, or taint as we call it, is that showing up in one of the kids, or perhaps all of the kids? Or is it that he was brought up in a horrible way, but they were also brought up in a horrible way because Fred and Sheila were awful parents? So it's sort of an interesting nature-nurture question going on, and lots of psychopaths, and a lot of people who are really off in this book. You just don't know how off they really are. I had a lot of fun writing it because I love psychopath stories. And I love that whole nature-nurture question, So yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one.
I bet you did. Oh, thank you for telling us about it. I mean, I can certainly vouch for the fact that, like all your books, Shari, it really is unputdownable. You just got to get to the end as quickly as possible. It's phenomenal.
Yes, it absolutely was. And it's one of those head-spinning books for me, where you're sort of guessing and gasping at each new revelation as it's unveiled. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. I also absolutely loved it. So my first question for you, Shari, is to do with how you got started with the thriller genre, because I believe that you started writing literary comedies. So can you tell us a little bit about how you went from there to here?
Well, okay, so when I started writing, I'd always wanted to be a writer when I was a kid. And I grew up on Nancy Drew. And you guys know Nancy Drew? Yeah, Nancy Drew.
I loved it.
I love Nancy Drew. And when I was like 9 years old, I just wanted to be Carolyn Keene, right? We all know Carolyn Keene. And then, when I was much older, I found out that Carolyn Keene was actually a stable of different writers. I didn't know that when I was a kid. I thought Carolyn Keene was my hero and she was tapping in all these Nancy Drew stories. I thought, oh, that's what I would love to do. And then I started branching out and reading Agatha Christie and other mysteries and so on. And then I read lots of other stuff, and I read a lot of literature and historical stuff. And when it came to time for me to actually sit down and try writing something, I was much older. I was home with my first child and had a bit of time off work. So I thought, I'm going to try and write something during nap time. So I started off with just a character idea, and I just kind of meandered along, and I called it my plotless wonder for a long time because I can't plot and I can't plan. So it became a literary work as opposed to a thriller, because I didn't even think about writing thrillers because I didn't know how to plot. So I wrote a book that way, and lo and behold, it did have a nice plot to it by the end. And then I wrote another one, and both of those did fairly well here in Canada. But I'd always wanted to write a thriller. That's what I like to read, and that's sort of my go-to genre. And I held back because I don't know how to plot or outline or plan. And I always thought that these kinds of books had to be planned in advance, with all the twists. And I figured you had to know what the plot was to write them, whereas I can't write that way. I just start with an idea. So I thought, well, I'm going to try and write a thriller. I'd written then my third literary novel, which I put aside because it just wasn't, I don't know, I was tired of it. And I thought, well, I'm just going to write a thriller in secret. I just won't tell anyone. I'm just going to give it a go. I'm just going to start with an idea and see if I can make it, come together. And that was The Couple Next Door. So I wrote that in 6 months without telling anyone. I didn't tell my husband or anybody. I didn't tell my agent. And by the time it was done, I thought, oh, I really can plot. I just don't plot ahead of time. I just plot on the go. So plotting on the page, I think we call it, now. So I was really pleased about that. And I had a lot of fun writing that one. It was very exciting for me. I didn't know where it was going to go. And every day was a new revelation for me. So that book did really well. I got a new agent who does thrillers, and she sold it very quickly to New York and all over the world. And, that book was really big. And that was great, but then I had to write the second one because I had a 2-book contract. And I thought, oh, I did it once. Can I write, like, not in secret? Can I? Because I find writing in secret very freeing. Like, I don't know about you, but when no one's watching me and I don't have any expectations, I can sort of experiment and stuff. So, but then I had a second book under contract, and I spun my wheels for a bit before that one got going because I wasn't writing in secret anymore, and I don't know how to plot. And so basically now I just start with an idea and I just trust the process, and I go through it, and I always come up with a book at the end. But we can talk more about process later on. But I think this question was about how did I get into thrillers. The question is, I always wanted to write one, and I love reading them. And I started with literary fiction because I just thought you didn't need a plot.
And would you ever
you really don't for literary fiction, not in the same way. So there you go. And all you people out there that want to write thrillers but can't plot, I wouldn't let it hold you back.
Yeah. And would you ever go back to writing literary comedies, do you think, or are you now firmly wedded to the thriller genre?
Probably not, but possibly if I had more time, and I had an idea that I wanted to pursue. I still love literary fiction. If I could be Kate Atkinson, sure. But it's not on my horizon anytime soon. I find, crime fiction is sort of where I am right now. But, I wouldn't say no to ever writing literary fiction again.
Well, talking of time, our topic today is actually the writer's year. And we know that you've written a book a year, I think, for the last 6 years, haven't you? Mm-hmm. So we thought that we figured that you'd be the perfect guest really to have on to talk about the writers.
And I will be completely honest about all of it.
I hope so. We want you to be completely honest, yes. Yeah. Warts and all. I'm sure there aren't any warts, but
oh yeah, there are.
We'd like you to sort of just talk us through your sort of typical writing year, really, how it works, how you organise your time, and everything you can tell us about.
So it's and you would know this, Leslie. You have a book out every year, right? And it's grueling. I think that's the word I would use. Is it's grueling, and it's very, for me, quite regimented in terms of the time because it has to be. So I always have the book out at the end of July. So that means it needs to be done and dusted for May. So basically, the book is copy edited and I'm proofing probably in May. I'm very late always because when we started with a couple, it came out really, really fast. And so I've been sort of behind the 8 ball for every book. I've never gotten ahead of, things. So, so by end of April, I would say I'm finished my copy edits and proofs sort of, and then the next weekend I start the next book. So generally the beginning of May, I start the next book. Although I remember with someone we know, there was one of them in there that I started a book and I wrote for a couple of months and it got to be the end of June and I went, this isn't working. I have to, try something else. And so I didn't start that one. I think it was someone we know I started at the end of June. So that one I was really racing. But basically, I start in the spring writing a new book, like around May. And then in June, July, August, that's when I'm doing promotion. So that cuts into the writing. So I always promote heavily in July and August, which the last 2 years has been all virtual. But it used to be a lot of travel, so that would cut into the time. And then I'm distracted by all of that. And then I get back to writing and I write until maybe November, December, and then I send it off to my editors. And then in January, we start rewrites. And it's just like January to March is revision, and that's that's the most difficult phase for me. I know everyone's different, but for me, that's the hard slog.
Me too.
You too. I find that maybe it's because it's always January to March and it's miserable weather, but I just find that really tough going because by then I'm getting sick of the book and so that's very intense. So when I'm writing my first draft in the summer, so say June, July, August with lots of interruptions, September, October, I'm writing my first draft and I'm writing every day or 6 days a week. And I do about 1,000 words a day with interruptions for travel and all that when I used to travel back in the good old days. And then, but when I do revision, sometimes I'm doing 10-hour days. And that's when my back goes out and I put on 10 pounds. And, it's not my favorite. Like when I'm writing a draft, I can write my quota, my scenes that I want to do in like 4 or 5 hours, sometimes less. But when I'm revising, sometimes I'm at it for 8-10 hours and I'm eating a lot of chocolate and I'm not moving from my desk. And there's always tight deadlines, as you know, right? To get this version in and then that version. And by the time that book's done, I'm so pleased to be rid of it. And then I told you this would be really honest. So I'm just really pleased to be rid of it.
It's great. Yeah.
And then, you know what it's like by the time you get the copy edits, you get the proofs and you're going blind reading it. And then it's gone and they go, oh, I gotta start another book like in a week. So that's what it's been like for me for 6 years. And so actually I'm on a bit of a sabbatical. I'm not gonna have a book out next July.
Oh, really?
I'm taking a year off.
Amazing.
I really feel like I need one because I'm kind of burnt out and I have a lot going on in my own life and family and stuff. So we decided I would just take a full year off and then do a book a year again for 2 more books. And then, I'll go back to a book a year, but I just need to reset there. And I guess the hope is that I get ahead and I have the books, I'm not behind the 8 ball every time where I'm always rushing. So I hope to get this book in much earlier and get revisions done much earlier so we can get it out as arcs much earlier because my books are always, right to the wire. And I'm very, I always like to get things done early. So I always get them in like the day before, but it's always such a tight deadline. It's,
I'm amazed that you actually start the next book so quickly. You don't give yourself any kind of downtime in between. I couldn't do that. I think I absolutely have to take a break, and that's probably to my detriment and then puts me behind. But yeah, I'm in awe. I think you absolutely deserve a year out.
Yeah. So I think that starting a new book right after, finishing the other book, and I'm not one of these people who has a million ideas, a million great book ideas. And I can't wait to get to the next one. Like I know there are writers like that just have too many ideas. I actually cast around for an idea for a while, right? And I have gone and started to write right after some, but some I've struggled to come up with an idea. But usually I'm writing, fairly quickly after because I've got that tight deadline.
It will be interesting next year when you do have a year off to see how you might actually find that you're itching to write, and do you know what I mean? You might well.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to start. I was supposed to start at the beginning of September on this book because I want to be done months in advance so I can put it aside and look at it with fresh eyes. Because that's the problem with the book a year, right? You can't ever. There's not enough time to just put it aside for a couple months and come back with fresh eyes. With my old books, literary fiction, nobody was clamoring for them. I spent years on them. I could put it aside for 3 months, come back and go, oh, I see what I need to do now. But I don't have that luxury on the book.
You don't have that creative space that you need.
Yeah. Just the getting away from it, right? So I'm hoping to write this one, soon and then have time to look at it and let it breathe and everything like a good wine, but I haven't come up with my idea yet. And I'm starting to wonder if I need to have deadline pressure to come up with my idea, right? So,
well, Laurie and I will give you a deadline to come up with an idea.
I want you to give me an idea. Tomorrow. Give me the idea. Don't give me the deadline.
No, if we have an idea, we would want it for our own book.
But the problem that I'm having is that every idea I come up with, I go, oh, that's great. And then I go, oh, wait, someone just did that. Or, I just did that. Or, like, oh, I can't do that because I did it in this other book. Or,
you've got to keep reinventing that wheel, haven't you?
Yeah,
reinventing that thriller wheel.
Do you find that? Like, I just find that I want to come up with something really original, and it's just getting harder and harder to do. The more I read, I realize, all the good things that other people have done with ideas.
Well, I don't think there is an original idea, is there?
No.
Everything has been done, but not everything has been written by you. So therefore, you might take an idea that isn't original, but you will make it original because it will be your spin on it and your take on it. So I think that's...
Yeah, I know, but it's just, I'm still trying to come up with something that's, you know how it is.
Oh yeah, no, we're there, fresh. Yeah, well, you were doing coming up with ideas, weren't you, Leslie, at the start of the summer, and it is really hard, and it's tough. I mean, for me, when I'm writing, it's more that I think I'm going over the same emotions that I've gone over again. So I've had 3 books with mothers and anxious mothers in it, and then my 4th book I've had to just cut the children because I just feel like that's quite repetitive for me. I wanted a change, so I think it sometimes can be ideas, and then it can be the emotions as well, can feel quite repetitive as well. So it is really hard to come up with those fresh ideas, isn't it?
It is. It really is. But once you find it, but I haven't had that little
light bulb
this is the one that I'm going to do, and it's
I'm sure it will come very soon. And it does go to show, you've got such an incredible work ethic, and you have done for the last 6 years, and it shows how disciplined and dedicated you have to be to sustain the kind of success that you've had in your field. So my next question is, did you realize when you first started writing thrillers how much work it was actually going to be? Or was it a bit of a shock, that you've had to keep going and going? You've talked about it being quite a treadmill. Did you expect it to be this way? Has it come as a surprise?
I didn't know what to expect, to be honest, because coming from the literary end, nothing happens fast in the literary world. I mean, you spend years on a book, and then no one really wants to see it, and no one really sends it out, and nothing ever really happens. It's just
unless you're Sally Rooney, of course, and then
so that's different. Yeah, and especially the Canadian literary scene is probably, it's kind of quiet, Anyway, unless you're a Margaret Atwood, it's kind of quiet. So I didn't know what to expect. So when this book took off, and I knew I had to write a second one, I think I was just really focused on, oh God, I have to write another one in the same vein, and I only did it once. I wasn't sure I could do it again. That was what was freaking me out. What I didn't expect was how much time and work is spent for a writer on administrative and promotion. So that has blown my little mind, actually, when I think about how much time I spend, like an hour a day on social media for Instagram and stuff, because that's just grown so much. And things like interviewing, like what you're doing podcasts, you do festivals where you're, it's one thing to be interviewed yourself, but when you're interviewing someone else, you've got to read their books, and there's the blurbing, and there's used to be the travel, which, I really loved, but takes a lot of time. So like, even when I don't have a book out that I'm promoting, like, don't you find especially since the pandemic and all the virtual stuff, there's always events, always books that you need to read, things you're prepping for. There's just so much to be done for the promotion of a writer. And I think sometimes back to Agatha Christie, like before social media and everything, I thought, wow, she probably just wrote and then had a launch party. She probably didn't do like the hours and hours a day that we do of promotion. You know what I'm saying? So it's just that surprised me.
I think, not every writer's on social media, are they? It does help enormously, I think, but it's not absolutely vital. But I think you've got to enjoy it. You have to enjoy it a little bit to do it. I certainly enjoy being on Twitter, and I'm
love Twitter. Like this is how I keep up with you guys, like all my friends. Instagram is where the fans are, and they take up a ton of time, and I enjoy that, because who doesn't like reading about people who enjoy their books? It's great, but it just does take another hour of your day. So I wasn't prepared for that. I think the amount of time in the business side of writing, and also the research, like when you're doing crime, there's a lot of you have to fact check stuff. You have to make sure you're getting it right. Like Leslie, I know you research health conditions, and I research mental health conditions, and because I set my books in the States, I have to be very careful and research how their stuff works compared to Canadian. It's quite different, really. I mean, they have sheriffs and detectives, and it's all very confusing. So yeah, it all takes time as well as the actual writing. So
It's hard though, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, we do enjoy it. It's
hmm.
I mean, but so it's you know, and I'm sure there are lots of people listening who would really, you know, who really want to be writers if they're not already, you know, and who would love to be in this position. But I
Oh,
suppose
I'm not complaining. I do love it. Best job
I
ever.
know. So I think it's, you know, but it's, I think it's this age old thing. You wish for something and something happens, but then nothing comes easy in life, does it? You have to work,
Yeah,
whether your dreams come true or not.
yeah.
You have to work bloody hard.
You have to work
There's
bloody
no
hard.
getting away from that, is
There's
there?
no, and I'm very grateful. Like honestly, terribly grateful. I never had a job I actually loved until this one. And I mean, I love writing books and I love reading books. And if anyone had told me 10 years ago, oh, you'll be sent 5 books a week, you know, all I have to do is read them and say something about them if you like them. And you know, this is great. It's compared to being in a law firm, like my God.
Yeah.
It's so much better. I don't mean to sound like I'm complaining, but it is a ton of work. I think people don't realize how much it takes out of you emotionally to
No,
write a book.
you don't sound
Don't
like
sound
you're
like that
complaining
at
at
all.
all. You
Oh,
sound you're
good.
being really honest.
Yeah.
And I think I've noticed in the last year, particularly with the pandemic and everything, a lot of writers, a lot of, you know, fairly well-known writers who are struggling with being either having burnt out or being on the verge of burnout. You know, I
Yeah.
won't mention names, but people that I know of who've sort of actually seriously considered taking a year out,
Yeah.
or you know, and I think it is
And
just, you know,
I think it's because, you know, with writers we need to get together and you know, you get energy from other people, and 2 years away and not seeing anyone and you're just in your room writing and
Mm.
on Zoom talking, and you don't see the fans and you don't sign the books, and it is very draining. Like I can't wait for it to be over and go back to real life, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it takes a ton of discipline to be a book a year writer, and hard work. Yeah, it's really hard work. Really hard work.
So, Shari, if you had one piece of advice for writers, new writers who suddenly find themselves now on this one book a year, and for writers like us who are, you know, who know what it's like, but who maybe still need a bit of encouragement and words of wisdom, what would that one piece of advice be to cope with this fun, wonderful, but sometimes grueling writer's year?
Oh, I think talking to other writers, you know, it helps you realize you're not in it alone, and it's normal to have the slumps, you know, and it's normal to struggle with ideas. Like even that, it's fun to hear other people saying, "Oh yeah, it's hard to come up with an idea," because you sort of see other people that have like so many ideas they can't pick which one, and I'm like, "Oh, give me some of your ideas." Um, like once I get a topic, like once I get something, the ideas come, but the original idea, you know, they don't come the way the continuing ideas do for me. Advice, I would say, because it's such a long haul, you have to write what you really enjoy writing, what turns you on. Like if you do that, then at least you can get through a first draft that you love. You can enjoy writing your first draft, and then it's sort of fun to shape it, and you know. But if you're writing to what you think is a market, or you know, writing to please someone else, it's just not going to work. You have to find out what your own voice and your own angle is, like your viewpoint on the world, because that's what's going to sell the books. It's because, as you say, everything's been done. So unless you do it in a certain way that you come through in, then it's not gonna really go anywhere. So
That's
I would just try to find your own voice. If I were a writer, I would, and to try to find your own voice, you have to, you know, you have to go down and you have to see what's important to you. You have to
I think
dig
that's good
around there.
advice. Good
Yeah.
advice, and remembering why you love it, and you know, and
Yeah.
enjoying the actual writing. That we
Yeah.
can,
I think
I'm looking forward to when I get my idea and I get to start writing again, because it's my escape. Like it's my fun time. Like writing that first draft is my fun time. That's what I live for. And then, you know, then I get the really long edit letter and I go, oh, they hated it. And then they go, no, we didn't hate it. We just have the, and I'm like, oh my God, so much work to do. And, you know, it's just, but I tend to be an emotional person anyway. So I'm like, woo, down. So one day I'm like, oh, this rocked. The next day it's like, really? You know.
Yeah, I think that's most authors have that, don't they, with the roller coaster. I know Andy, my husband, is always saying one day you think it's great and the next day you think it's terrible. So it's very,
this is
very
so normal,
common.
right? This is so typical of writers.
Yeah. I think it just sounds, doesn't it? Like, I think we're doing our dream. This is our dream and it's so many other people's dreams, but it is still really hard work. And it is still a case of putting your bum in a chair all the time, even sometimes when you don't want to, and when the sun is shining and you have to work. And I think there's sort of this idea that because we're living our dreams, that it should be so easy, and it isn't always. So it's
not, and life isn't easy for anybody. So I'd rather this be my hard work than something else be my hard work. But you know, it's never easy. Many times on holidays I've had to sit down, you know, and work through holidays. Just because of the way my schedule goes.
And my next question, Shari, is were you in any way prepared for the success that's come your way, and how have you dealt with it? So has it been a complete joy from start to finish, or do you have days where you're pulling your hair out a bit with it?
In terms of the success, it was a complete surprise because I wrote that Couple Next Door as an experiment to see if I could do it, and then I sent it out to an agent. And I didn't really expect to hear back quickly. Like, I didn't know. I thought it was pretty good. Like, on a good day, I thought it was pretty good. But then it blew up really quickly. And that was just a pure joy. It was just fun there for a year. I just was drinking champagne all the time. And it was lovely. And I've never lost that fun and the joy in it. Like, I love when the bestseller lists come out and I always have champagne. And so the success has been total joy. I've never begrudged that at all. I don't feel like it's intrusive or because writers are, we're fairly anonymous. It's not like, nobody knows who we are. Nobody recognizes us. It's really nice. But the success has been great. I've never, sometimes the work is really hard, but the success has been really nice. Won't complain. I mean, I guess there's pressure with each book but it's an internal pressure with each book. We all want to get better with our next book, right? I mean, that's an internal writer thing. We all want to be fresh. We all want to do something new. We all want to do better on the next one. So that's not from the business. I think all writers feel that way. So we put pressure on ourselves, but that makes us work and makes us strive. So
we certainly do. One of the things that I pick up from your books and that you do really well, Shari, is you really have a brilliant knack of getting right inside the heads of your characters. And you have quite a few characters in each novel, don't you? Different points of view. And we really do get to know what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and identifying with the different emotions that they have. And I was wondering how far do you think it's important that as writers, we bring our own feelings to our characters? I suppose what I'm asking is, how much of ourselves do we put into our characters? Is that a way of getting to the authenticity? Even characters who are on the surface nothing like us, do we have to find something of ourselves in them in order to write effectively?
No, I mean, you have to be able to imagine what that emotion would feel like. So I think you're transposing, like, we've all felt rage. So, I might have felt rage about one thing. I just tap into what those feelings feel like for my character who's just been cornered, kind of thing. Or we've all felt anxiety, for the anxious mothers. We've all felt anxiety. So, even if we haven't killed someone, I think we've all felt murderous rage. I mean, or close to it, something close to it, or fear. So you tap into those emotions that I'm a fairly emotional person anyway, so I think you do tap into those feelings, but you just project them onto your characters. like I've never been accused of murder, but
I hope not.
I have enough of a relationship with anxiety that I can easily imagine what it would feel like. I'm a bit of an awfulizer in my own life, you know, like.
Yeah, I think that's what I meant actually, you know, to try and sort of, yeah, we have to sort of bring the authenticity of the emotion. It might be a
Yes.
situation that we haven't experienced, but we've got to bring something of that emotion to make it ring true, I guess.
Yeah.
But you know, I suppose all characters, in a sense, have elements of ourselves in, even if we don't intend them to. That's a
Yeah.
subconscious thing that may come out. But
Yeah.
no, it's just interesting because I know it's something you do really well, get right
I
into.
love getting inside the heads of my characters. It's my favorite part.
Yeah.
So you know, I love to, one of my typical things I do is I switch. I'll be in someone's head and then I'll switch to another head. And I just love to do that. It's a great way for me to keep going. You know, if I get sort of stopped, then I think, well, how does so-and-so feel about this? And I just love flitting around little heads.
And it keeps the suspense going because then we're kind of desperate to get back to hear what's happening with the other person.
Yeah. I guess I like imagining other people's lives and how they would handle things. And I like to see things get worse and worse. It's funny because one funny thing, when I wrote literary fiction, one of the criticisms I had on both of my books from both of my editors, and they were good editors, was like, you avoid conflict. You know, you avoid, and I tend to avoid conflict in my real life, but in my fiction, I was avoiding conflict. So she says, you know, you can make things get much worse for these characters. And I'm going, oh. So I seem to be taking that on. You know, I get things really, really bad for my characters. Yeah.
I think you ran with that bit of advice.
I ran with that bit of advice, and maybe I just ran to crime and I never looked back because, like, yeah, I want to make things really bad for my characters now that I've been given permission to make things really awful for people. But that bit of advice for writers is like, don't hold back from that conflict and that confrontation and how ugly things can get. You know, like in fiction, you can do whatever you want. So it's nice that way.
Very true.
Yeah.
And as Leslie mentioned, you do tend to have quite a few characters in your books. So what's been the most complicated book that you've written in terms of plot? And what's been your process for sort of ironing those problems out? You know, do you sort of brainstorm with anyone else? Do you put post-its over the walls, or do you know, how do you manage it when you reach a sort of a brick wall in the plotting?
Yeah, so I never actually, that's only ever happened once. Generally, I don't hit a brick wall because I just keep writing and figure it out as I go along, and I don't plan ahead, so I don't hit that wall. But the one place where I did hit a wall was with an unwanted guest. So that was a closed room mystery with a certain number of people in it, and someone was killing people, and I had to be aware of, you know, who was where and who might have done it. And I found that very difficult to do because I couldn't keep it as open-ended as most of my books, where everything's kind of open and I can sort of do whatever I want. That one was, you know, I actually got stuck and I had to talk to my agent, and I realized that I'd killed the wrong person in first. So I had to change the order of people dying in order for it to open up for me to be able to carry on. So this is kind of why I don't like to plan. Like I got to there, and I was stuck, and I had to go back and change quite a lot in order to be open so that I could carry on. I can only carry on if I have a lot of options open to me because I don't have a plan. So if I were writing to a plan and I knew that this and this was going to happen and this was the killer, I don't know that I would have enough openness for me to invent things as I go, you know, sort of. So I needed to open things up in that book because I'd shut things down too much by killing the people that I killed in the beginning. So I've realized with me, I need to have a lot of room, a lot of open territory to sort of invent things. Otherwise, I can't fill the book.
So no more closed room mysteries for you then?
No, that was so hard. I'm not doing another one. People love them, and some people love writing them. I found it very difficult.
Yeah, I'm the same actually. I don't write them either. I find them too challenging. I have a sort of a closed room village, if you like. So I have a whole village of people, but I'm not sure I could do a lot.
That's not as bad. I sort of have that where I have a village or a town or a suburb or whatever, but you're still open. you know,
Yes.
it's just easier to manage. Closed room is
Yeah, I agree.
vicious. Never again for me. No. There's lots of people out there that can do it more easily than I can.
I'm just starting to worry slightly because my next one, it's not really a closed room mystery, but it has elements of that in it. So it's, yeah. Maybe
They
I've
are
Find ways to
hard.
keep the door open.
set myself a mammoth task, but never mind. We shall see. But I'm taking a leaf out of your book, Shari, this time, and I'm going to be a bit more free flowing, and just see what happens. I'm yeah. After planning my last two quite extensively, and then finding I still managed to get into a real pickle in the second half.
Oh, really?
I've decided I'm going to go for the freer flowing option. I'm going to be more like Shari.
Well, it's funny because with each book, I've sort of tried to be, I remember Claire McIntosh telling me, no, Sherry, you got to plan it. I've told this story before, I don't know, but she said what you need is a murder wall. Because we had an event together and I said, oh, I don't plan. I just go for it. And then I have to revise so much because it's so much work revising because I didn't plan it. So, there's more to be worked on, I think. And she says, oh, you need a murder wall and plan it all out. So that's what we do in the police. So I thought, okay, I'll give it a whirl. And I got this big piece of white paper and my daughter took it outside and she splattered red paint all over it. So it had blood spatter on it. She was young then. This was years ago. And I put it up on the wall and I had all these sticky notes sitting here. And I sat there and I thought, sticky note. Single thing. I sat there with my pile of sticky notes. Nothing went on that board. I couldn't come up with, I had my first idea and I had no idea where it was going to go. Like I just, I had to write it and get into the head of the characters to see what they were going to do, and I always put them in conflict right away. Like with Couple Next Door, it's like, all I knew was they were going to go next door for dinner with the baby monitor and leave the kid at home and the kid would disappear. That's all I knew. But when I started to write that, and they're talking about, oh, should we take the monitor? And then he was kind of pushing her to leave the baby at home and go get the monitor. And then she was kind of mad at him for that. And I sort of got into the feeling there. And then I thought, oh, okay. And then they start to, the conflict makes them grow, I find. So without having that conflict on the page and getting to know who they are, I can't think of the next step. So I threw away the murder wall. And I don't know which book I wrote after that, but it was the same messy process I used for all of them.
Well, it's certainly a process that works.
That's what I was just going to say.
But it works. But I would be interested to hear people who plan, if they do as much work in editing as I do, because I write my first draft and I have a story and I have my characters. But it's pretty, what's the word? It's pretty raw. It's pretty, I do that to find out who everyone is and what the story is. But, it needs a lot of work after that first draft. So I thought if I planned, I would have less work and revision, but I've never been able to do that. So if you plan, do you find revision is still heavy going?
Yeah, I'm a really big planner. I'm Post-its on the wall, I'm spreadsheets, and with Safe at Home, my latest book, it went through 3 rounds of structured letters. So I don't think that you come out the other end necessarily in any better shape. I just think it's the way your brain is wired and how everybody works differently. But I wouldn't say, I think the first draft is always the first draft, no matter which way, whichever road you've taken, I think personally.
That's good to hear. I always thought if you planned it, you'd have maybe one less revision to do.
I would like to think that. I would love it. And I always, you hand it off and you think maybe there'll be no structural edits, like as if that ever happened.
Structural edits are the hardest edits. They're so hard. Really are. And because it's like that Jenga game, you change one thing over here in Act 3 and everything falls down over here. And it takes tremendous reworking. Even timelines, and people don't realize you have a timeline of a certain number of days or whatever, and if something happens earlier, all your timelines change, and then that changes it. Don't you find that? That's what I dislike about restructural. It doesn't really change the feel of the book or anything, but the mechanics of it, it's a lot of work to get those to work.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. Especially like you don't have, I'm sure this isn't the problem in literary fiction, but in crime fiction where the plots are so complex, I think it's really tricky once you go in there and start messing around with structure, which, you know, they always do.
So,
But
Shari, we always like to find out what books our guests enjoy reading. And so is there anything particular that you'd like to recommend? Have you been reading anything good at the moment?
well, as it just happens, I just read This Girl, That Girl by the lovely Leslie Cara, and it is fabulous.
Oh.
This one was really, really good. I found it, I read it very quickly, very interesting story, very twisty towards the end. And yeah, I really loved it.
Oh,
So
thank
well
you.
done, Leslie.
That means a lot to me. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And I also read, I've been recommending That Night by
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, I like
McAllister.
Mm.
You know, whenever I recommend this, people go, "Oh yeah, I just read that. It's really good." It's very, very good. It's got some siblings in it that I really enjoyed the sibling interaction. They get involved in covering up a crime, and then all hell breaks loose. So it's my kind of book. And I always enjoy Linwood Barclay, so I recently finished.
The lovely Linwood, yes.
Lovely Linwood, yeah.
Yeah.
And I've read lots more. I just can't remember what they are at the moment. You know what it's like, you're always reading books, but
Yeah.
ones that have stood out this year are also our Will Dean's book, which I recommend.
Oh, Slow Fire Burning.
No, that's
No,
Paul
that's
Hawkins.
Paula Hawkins. That one was really good.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah,
not fine.
I read that one.
The last one to burn. The last
Sorry.
thing to burn.
That
yes.
one's, yeah,
Wrong
okay.
title. I love
can
that one.
recommend both of those, Will Dean's Last Thing to Burn and also Paula Hawkins'.
Yeah, I've got that on my shelf to read as
Like
well,
I've
yeah.
noticed this year, there's a lot of burning and fire
There's a lot of
titles.
burning. I think that's why I got confused then. Yeah, there's a lot of burning.
There's several of them, and I can't think of them right now, but there are quite a few with fire or burning. Like there's a Burning Girls.
Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? And a few years ago, there was a lot with water in it.
Yeah, you know, we're all very elemental.
Or up a mountain.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, Paula Hawkins' book is fabulous. And Girl A by Abigail Dean, I love.
Oh yeah, love that.
Yeah, you love that one too. I love that book. Name another one. I've probably read it. I just can't off the top of my head. I've moved a lot of my books to the farm because we're moving to the farm. So if I don't have them in front of me,
I've just read the Paula Hawkins. I really loved it. I think it's her best yet. It's so nuanced.
Same here.
It's literary fiction, isn't it? It's a literary thriller. I absolutely loved it, and I didn't actually want it to end. You know, when you read some books and you're desperate to get to the end, I was enjoying the reading of it so much. I actually wanted to make it last. But what else?
Yeah, I think it's her best one too.
It definitely is. It definitely is. Yeah. And I've been sent. Well, I've got Lauren's new book, Safe at Home, which is it's Lauren's e-publication day today.
Oh, happy birthday!
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And that's coming out at the end of the month, and I've got that to read. I haven't even read it yet.
You've only just got a copy.
I've only just got a copy, but that's definitely on my TBR. And I was sent this, which is Vine Street by Dominic Nolan.
Ooh.
And I really can't wait to get into this. Trevor Wood has called it an epic, brutal blockbuster of a crime novel, and it's really good. I mean, I've I've read his previous books, and so I'm really, really looking forward to reading that one. And I also picked up, because I was on a panel event with Phoebe Morgan recently, so I'm going to read The Wild Girls, that's another sort of locked room mystery, isn't it?
Yeah, I really want to read that. I've got it on my Kindle to read.
Yeah,
actually.
I've just started this one and I already love it. It's The Quiet People by Paul Cleave, about a crime writer who may have murdered his own kid and tried to get away with it. So it's kind of interesting. So real page turner. I like it.
Fantastic. What about you, Laurie? What are you reading?
Well, it didn't do a lot of reading over the summer actually, because I was structural editing. But I did read Do No Harm by Jack Jordan, which I picked up at Harrogate, which was very much an edge of your seat, quite nail-biting thriller, which I really enjoyed. And I've listened to The Night She Disappeared by Lisa Jewell. I'm a huge...
Oh, I love that too. I've read that one too.
I just would just never want it to end with her books. And I'm currently reading Philip is Safe and Sound, which I'm really enjoying as well. Very, very good thriller. So yeah, some good ones.
Yeah, it's been a good summer for reading. I find there's always a lot of good books around. There's no shortage of good books ever.
Right.
There's never a shortage of good books. Now then, Shari, we're moving on to the more light-hearted part of the show, because the rest has been a real hard slog, hasn't it? And since your latest novel involves family members who can't help suspecting each other of the rather gruesome crime of murdering their parents, we were wondering, what's the worst or funniest thing that you've ever suspected anyone in your family of doing? And obviously, I hope it's something a little less gruesome than cold-blooded murder. She's thinking.
I can't think of anything I've ever. My family's pretty, well, I wouldn't say straightforward. They're complicated, but we're pretty. We're not very secretive, I guess, is in my family. So I can't think of anything that I've suspected anyone of doing.
It doesn't have to be a crime, Shari. It doesn't have to be a crime. It could be something like,
I suspected my family of murder.
Could be something like leaving the kitchen in a mess or something. I don't know. You don't worry. We won't put you.
I've just blanked.
I'm sure Laurie's got one because she's.
I'm sure that people suspect Manuel and I of things because like this weekend we were digging a walk on our farm, like to put stones down, and then we're piling all the dirt up, and it just happens that dirt gets piled right below a tree. And it looks, if you stand back, it looks just like a freshly dug grave. And then my husband says, we should put a cross on that. And then I said, people will think we killed our contractor. So we didn't. But people might suspect us of killing our contractor because it has been several years.
Since he was last seen.
Yeah, so me and Lynn would make jokes about, construction workers all the time and, how we'd like to kill them all. But anyway, if people come up my driveway this week, they're going to see what looks like a freshly dug grave. And they might suspect me of something.
What about you, Laurie? Have you got anything?
I don't know. I think there's probably some really good ones, but I think I've blanked a bit as well. But I get accused actually a lot in my family of cheating. So whenever we play any games, it's always like, oh, mum's cheating again. Now, the difficulty is I do cheat quite a lot. So I have really only shot myself in the foot here, but it frustrates me when I haven't cheated to always be accused of it. So anytime I can't win at anything now without it being, oh, she cheated. Even when you play the game Cheat, they think I've cheated at Cheat. I don't know if you know the card game Cheat, but we play that a lot. And I apparently I cheat at that. So, but that would be mine. What about you, Leslie?
Well, there are probably quite a few things, but I did suspect, and I was quite right in my suspicions, my youngest son of having a party in the house when we went away for a weekend. And he was under strict instructions not to do that because he had had a party before, a party that we'd known about, but that had got a little bit out of hand for my liking. It was a bit messy and noisy and yeah. So he was under strict instructions not to do that again and assured me that he wouldn't. And when we got home, the house was immaculate. It was completely tidy and clean, almost too tidy and clean. And I could smell furniture polish, but I could also smell that undertone of cigarettes.
Oh.
And I thought, So I said, have you had a party? And his face absolutely fell. He said, no. And I said, well, I can smell smoke. I'm sure you have. And he said, oh, well, we might have just had a couple of friends round, and someone might have been smoking out a window. And of course, years later, he confessed that they had had a big party and they'd spent an entire day cleaning and polishing and opening all the windows. And so they were horrified when I came in and smelt smoke straight away. But I've got a nose for smoke, having been a smoker. I can always tell. So yeah, my suspicions were proved correct in that case. He was a very naughty boy, but he's turned into a lovely, sensible young man now, and he may have teenagers of his own one day, and I shall be sitting back in my rocking chair in the nursing home, laughing and saying, "Ha ha!" Now you know what it's like. But I think that's, have we come to the end, Laurie?
We have indeed come to the end of the show.
Yes, so we've, we've absolutely loved having you on, Shari. You've been really, really brilliant because you've been
It's my pleasure, and I hope that wasn't too much honesty for all the aspiring writers out there, but I mean, it is the best job going. Just, sometimes you have hard days, but a lot of really good days.
No, I think you've given us all food for thought about how to be kind to ourselves, really, and and not push ourselves too much. And I really wish you every success with your year off, and I hope that you do get ahead of your schedule and that you actually have a lovely time to recharge your batteries, because more than anything, Shari, as well as wanting you to be fit and healthy and happy, we want you to come back and start writing some more books because we love reading.
Definitely.
Well, thank you. And I'm hoping, like, I've had 4 months off writing. I've been doing a lot of promotion and, getting our other house ready and stuff to move. So it's been very busy with moving and things. But I've really enjoyed just having the freedom of thought and being able to read and not, getting it interfering with my own writing, and it's been quite recharging. So I hope when I get that idea, I'll go back to it all fresh. And
well, fingers crossed with that. And in our next episode, we are speaking to psychologist, therapist, and author Philippa East on author well-being, as well as her latest book, Safe and Sound, which is what I'm currently reading and very much enjoying. So we've got that to look forward to in our next episode.
So now we're going to come to the end of our Series 4, Episode 1, in a totally new way that doesn't involve trying to synchronise our voices saying In Suspense, because frankly, we've been there, we've done that very badly, haven't we, Laurie?
There was a couple of times it worked out, I'll let you know.
Yeah, we did manage to get it right once or twice, but we thought, you might be getting a bit bored with that. So we're now just going to plagiarise the two Ronnies. I don't know if you've ever heard of the two Ronnies, have you, Shari? They're probably not. There were sort of a couple of comedians in the big comedians in the 1970s, Ronnie Barker, and oh God, I've forgotten the other one's surname. Anyway, the two Ronnies, and they always ended their show in a very particular way. So we're going to plagiarise them, aren't we, Laurie? And we're simply going to say, so now it's goodbye from Shari, and it's goodbye from me,
and it's goodbye from her.